everyone. Welcome back to my channel. I'm Joey the Veiled Cottage Witch, and this is another episode of One Card in 4 Decks. If you're familiar with this series, we are taking the Rider-Waite Smith Tarot and comparing them with other tarot decks that are outside the box, outside of your normal Rider-Waite Smith imagery, and just kind of comparing them, contrasting them, and see if we can help you guys to interpret some different looking decks, and see if we can help you guys to kind of break away from this kind of imagery. Nothing wrong with this imagery, but a lot of my students just don't jibe with the Rider-Waite Smith, or they're looking for other decks that are different. So that's kind of what we're doing. So if that sounds good to you, stick around, because that is the theme. Today's crystal that vibrates with the Page of Swords is blue kyanite. And I love blue kyanite. I don't get to use it very often, or I don't choose to use it very often. I guess there's other blue stones that I really like. But blue kyanite is for mental focus and for new ideas, and also for clarity. And it vibrates with the element of air, which is perfect for our Page of Swords. And I'll be honest, this page is probably my favorite page, and probably one of my favorite court cards, to be honest. I just really like this guy. So let's break down the Page of Swords. So first thing I notice about the Page of Swords is all the clouds. And we've talked about clouds being cloudy thoughts, you know, just kind of cloudiness in the brain, kind of like brain fog, if you will. So he's got a sword. He's wearing yellow, which is for the element of air as well. He's on a hilltop. The wind is moving through his little ponytail, which I really like. He's also wearing red, which symbolizes power. And his sword looks to be a little bit too big for him. He's a small guy, and he's got a big sword. And it looks like he is just kind of like when kids, you know, are playing make-believe out in the yard, and they're fighting an invisible foe. And they're just like hacking away, and I'll use my little porcupine quill, and they're just fighting an invisible intruder or an invisible enemy, and they're just like killing air. That's what this reminds me of, this page. So, you know, it's almost like he's slicing the clouds. You got this flock of birds over here kind of looking at him like, what are you doing? Which kind of cracks me up as well. So he's essentially practicing his craft. You know, we know that he is going to move on to become a knight, and then eventually a king. So I see this as practice. Practice makes perfect. You know, he's training. You know, he is wanting to be a king someday, and he can't do that unless he practices. So, you know, that is the Page of Swords in a nutshell. So let's take a look at what we see here in the Prisma Visions. So hopefully you guys watched my video with the whole panorama, but if you didn't, that's okay. We can still divine a meaning out of this Page of Swords. So he's got what looks like a bird mask on. So he's he's got 1 foot off the cliff here, and he's in snow. And he's got this big sword just like this guy. I'm easing you into the weirdness, trust me, all right? Because the next one is really strange. So he's practicing in order to fight this big bird here. Not the big bird, just a big bird, okay. So yes, he's doing what he should be doing. He's training. And I've got the Rocky theme stuck in my head, you know, because training montages. I'm a kid of the 80s, and I'm automatically, you know, got the Rocky theme in my head. But the one thing that I see, yeah, he's at the top of a cliff over here. The top of a mountain over here, or a hilltop. But this guy has got a mask on where he can't really see very well. And he's on the side of the cliff. Not smart, buddy. I mean, yeah. And so as he's practicing and training, he's like, watch what I can do. There's a level of piety and almost pompous, you know, attitude here, to where he thinks he's a little better than he actually is. So this Page of Swords is kind of not smart. You need a little more practice before you go and try and train on the edge of a cliff. You know, we can almost see this is how people die, buddy. And I can relate, because we were just talking yesterday as we were painting the mural on the side of my cottage about how on my honeymoon, my wife and I took this little trail for the sake of adventure. We took this little trail on the side of the Grand Canyon. And this little trail took us, not even gonna lie, this close to the edge of the Grand Canyon. Because we wanted a little adventure, as I'm sure this Page of Swords had in mind when he was training. Well, I almost fainted. It was crazy. Yeah, and we made it, obviously, but by the skin of our teeth, and it was not fun. But we were hugging the sides, and I got really, really dizzy and nauseous, and I will never, ever, ever, ever do that again. And yeah, so this makes me feel a little bit of that vertigo right there. So yeah, when we are training and we feel that energy from, yeah, I can fight these clouds and they're nothing, and we keep going and we get that adrenaline rush. We need to take a step back and realize we're not quite as good as we think we are. So I think that's the lesson that this page needs to learn. Okay, so I promised you weird. Okay, I'm bringing the weird. All right, here's the Page of Swords in the Deviant Moon Tarot. Now, I had this come up in a reading that I did last night, and I really okay, first of all, we got matchy colors, which I love, but what I see here that's a little bit different is he's being very over analytical. And what I mean by that is he's got this spyglass almost but it's almost as if like one of those jewel glasses that they use, like a monocle. And he's really looking at his sword. He is really analyzing that sword very intently. So he's not like practicing it and wielding it around like he should be here in the Page of Swords, but he is analyzing every cranny and blade, every part of this blade instead of practicing with it. And I thought, buddy, that's not what you're supposed to do with a sword. You're supposed to wield it and swing it around and practice with it and get control of that hilt and know what to do with it. You don't look at it, you don't analyze it and look at every edge. You swing it. You swing the sword. And this just makes me think that, okay, where is this going to get you? Nowhere, right? I mean, it reminds me of someone who practices like looking at a gun or a knife and, just looking at it. Okay, well, are you ever going to pick it up? Get a feel for it. But this person is just looking at it instead of swinging it. You got to swing it sometime, right? Like, shit or get off the pot, buddy. Yeah. You can only look at it so much, before you're going to have to swing it. So I thought that was a pretty interesting take on the Page of Swords. Yeah. He's never going to become a king until he swings that sword. Because an enemy can come up any minute behind him. I mean, this is at night. It's not during broad daylight here. What's he going to do if an enemy comes up behind him? And he's analyzed every edge, sure, but that's not going to defeat an enemy, right? Right. So, we move on. So this we have the Anima Mundi, and if you know me and you know my channel, you know that this is my favorite tarot deck that I own. So far, this is my favorite. So we have the Page of Swords in the Anima Mundi deck. Here's our sword, beautiful branch, and then we have a butterfly coming out of his cocoon here. So the way I see this is, if we practice, we move up a level, right? And we talked about the page moving up to the knight and then eventually moving up to king status. Well, that's a metamorphosis, and that's what the butterfly has to go through. We can imagine that, sometime before this, he was a caterpillar along this branch, and he set up his cocoon. Here's his cocoon. Let's just say the caterpillar was the page, okay? And then the cocoon was the knight, okay? So in his cocoon phase, he was fighting enemies and battling. And then the butterfly phase would be the king phase. Eventually he became a king, which would be this beautiful viceroy, or I can't really tell. It looks like either a monarch or a viceroy butterfly here. Either one, they're my favorites. Viceroy is a little bit more red. The monarch is a little bit more red-orange. So it's hard to tell when they're closed up like that. But so I kind of get that those 3 phases in this card. So once you train as a caterpillar, you can become a cocoon, so a knight, and then eventually become a butterfly as a king. So that's how I see it. And I love the colors that all go together, the reds. You know me, I love when colors match up and kind of go with what I'm speaking about. So that was the Page of Swords in the Rider-Waite Smith, the Prisma Visions, the Deviant Moon, and the Anima Mundi Tarot. So tell me how you interpret the Page of Swords. What does it mean to you, and how do you interpret it in your decks? Please let me know in the comments below. Next, we'll be talking about the Knight of Swords, and that's going to be a fun one. I'm excited for that. We also are doing a magical plant series on this channel. I have interviews coming up. We're doing the Tarot Talk, where we pick a deck, we spread it out, we draw a card, and that's what we talk about, which is super fun. I have one of my very good friends, Marina Glenn, going to be on the channel next. And that's going to be super exciting. And I will be doing, I believe, cinnamon as my next magical plant series. And yeah, so lots of things coming up, super excited about. Please go onto my website if you'd like to book a full reading with me. You can also book a class. You can request a workshop. There's tons of things on my website to sign up with. You can also purchase anything on my herbal store. Just make sure that you enter the code all caps veiled at checkout to get your free shipping. All of that information will be down below. If you'd like to financially support this channel, you can buy me a coffee. That's down below as well. Yeah, other than that, live your best life and live for yourself. I'll see you on the next one. Bye.